guys, it's Appleminte. Welcome back again to my channel, and October has officially begun, meaning that it is now spooky month. I am so excited because this is my favorite time of year. So all month long I'm going to be doing videos that are Halloween, spooky, fall themed, anything that has to do with the vibes of this month. And we're kicking it off with today's video being an Inktober video with a bit of a spin compared to my previous Inktober videos. I'm going to be using some colored inks today, which is something I've not tried before. I'm going to start by showing you guys what I'm going to use, and then we're going to go on this adventure together. So let's get right into it. So for my paper of choice for this project, I'm going to be using watercolor paper because since I'm using inks, I'm going to be mixing them with water and I need something that can hold that and not just bleed right through the paper. So I'm going to be using this new Arteza book that I have. I really like the shape of this paper. I didn't want to use the 5.5 by 8.5 that I normally use. This one I think is 8.5 by 8.5, and it's a really good size in my opinion for making a nice well-rounded drawing. So I'm excited to jump into this sketchbook. And as for my materials, I'm going to be using these inks that I actually got in a subscription box a few years ago. And I used them for a few projects, but never anything like this. So I'm curious and slightly worried how it's going to work since I have had them for a while. I don't know. And I'm also going to be using masking fluid in this because it'll help me cover up some areas that maybe I don't want to get ink on just yet. So I also don't use this too often. So I'm excited to introduce some of these materials together and see how it goes. And then of course I have a little mixing palette. Anyway, let's get into sketching. So for my sketch, I'm using my Prismacolor Colerase pencil in red. If you guys have been following me recently or for a little while, you'll know that I've pretty much ditched using graphite pencils altogether because they get really messy and smudgy, and I much prefer using this pencil. It's a lot cleaner. But specifically for today's video, since I'm going to be using inks, kind of like a watercolor wash, I won't necessarily put down line art before I go in with coloring for this one. So using this pencil definitely helps prevent a lot of smudging, because if I was to use a graphite pencil, this would just be a hot mess. So for my subject that I'll be drawing today, I wanted to do something that fit the spooky theme, but also something that wasn't necessarily 100% conventional. And I know this isn't an original idea by any means, but I wanted to do something fun. So I'm drawing a mermaid witch. And one of the main reasons that I chose this was because I wanted to pick a theme or a topic, something that matched the colors that I was going to be painting with. So I showed you guys before some of the ink colors that I have, and the ones that I want to hone in on are that purple and that blue. I think that obviously the purple matches the Halloween, October witch vibes, and then the blue is a very aquatic color, so I think they'll go very nicely together for the overall theme of this drawing. This drawing was very fun to sketch because I love drawing mermaids in general, but I also enjoy drawing witches. So it was fun to kind of mix together the two things and give her the top half being an outfit of a witch with some accessories, and then the bottom making her very flowy with lots of fins and everything. And for her hat, I wanted to give her some aquatic accessories, so I gave her a starfish and some seaweed to kind of look like some ribbons hanging off of it. For the tip of her hat, I actually wanted to do like a little bauble or something, but I ended up going with a lantern because I imagine if she was like a deep sea creature, she would have a glowing point, kind of like how anglerfish have something glowing. I thought having a glowing lantern at the tip of her hat was kind of like that, like kind of fun. And then I gave her little eel companions swimming with her. So now it is time to add the masking fluid, because I definitely want to try to do a little bit of a background, like not necessarily background, but like put down a wash of some colors and let them mix without too much of that getting on her. It's okay if some does, because I will be painting over it with ink anyway, but I definitely wanted to try masking some areas that I wanted to keep more dry. And the way this stuff works, if you haven't used it before, you basically paint it down and it dries almost like a glue material, and when it's dry you just peel it up and that area is protected. And of course you peel it up after you finish coloring. For mixing my inks, the first time around I wanted to make a really light wash, so I added a lot of water and only 1 drop of this ink because that's really all you need. A little goes a long way. But I had a bit of a problem here because I really don't know if this is a me problem or this ink was really old, because I have had this for 3 or 4 years, but what in heck are those chunks? I don't know what's happening here. It's as if some of it just didn't want to mix. Full transparency here, I've not really dabbled in ink washes before, using pots of ink to do anything. Oh, yeah, right here. Here's me being a genius again. Making a blatant mistake, thinking that maybe I could put down some ink onto the page and watch it, like, you know, disperse and I could blend it out. No, I made a giant black hole, basically. But hey, I turned it into a jellyfish, so we're good. We're good there. As you can see, some of this wasn't exactly going as planned, but, you know, full transparency here. Like I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to ink washes. I've never done it before, so this is really my first time, and I don't really know if I did something wrong here. I'm not sure if it's, you know, maybe you're not supposed to mix with water. Maybe I put too much water. Maybe I didn't put enough water. Maybe the ink was supposed to go in first and then the water. Like, I don't know, but I didn't have this problem with the purple, so I think it's a problem with the material. I think either it was older or something's up with the blue, but yeah, I don't know what's happening there. But other than those little, you know, fiascos and snafus that I hit, everything else pretty much is running smoothly. We're good. You know, the purple, once I actually started putting it down on the page, looked really good. And the same with the blue. I wasn't really having too many issues with it. And this paper was decent for soaking up the ink in the water. Some areas started to buckle when I would put like too much and I would go in too many times to try to layer it. But overall, I didn't really have too many issues with the paper, so the sketchbook itself was fine. When coloring her skin, I was thinking to originally leave her skin white and then shade with a light blue. I ended up changing my mind and just coloring all her skin in light blue because I wanted to reserve the white in the piece for like little accents or accessories, and I think also just giving her blue skin is also a little bit more mystical and aquatic. So that's kind of why I just changed and went with that rather than leaving it white. It would have been a little too plain. And as you can see, I'm pretty much going with purples for her accessories and her witchy aspects, but I'm also trying to, as I say in every video that I have a limited color palette, place the colors in a way that not too much of one color is next to the other, just to make it more appealing to the eye and to prevent loss of detail. So I have these fine liners here that I also want to introduce into the piece. And my plan was to put down a lot of color first and then start adding some outlines. This is a Copic multi-liner in size 0.3. And we're still working within the realm of ink here. We have the ink bottles for the washes, and then I have my fine liner to add in that bold detail. And actually the color of the fine liner happens to be a purple. So it worked out really well with this piece, kind of matching the theme. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but in person it's definitely a purple. So it matches the colors of the piece overall. And I enjoy using line art on watercolor, or I guess you could call this watercolor, but it's really an ink wash pieces, because I think that it helps define a lot of details. I find that when you don't add in bold outlines to a piece like this, you lose some unless you had a lot of definition in your painting, which, like I've said, I am no expert when it comes to this. I definitely excel a little more at markers than I do with washes or watercolors, but always willing to learn and always willing to try to improve. And something that I actually think I've been realizing is that the brushes definitely help a lot. Like using a brush that's a lot softer helps get a nicer blend and wash of color rather than using a thinner, harder bristle brush. Not harder bristle, but those little ones that come with the water already in them. I used to think they were really great, and now I'm kind of realizing they're not necessarily the best unless you're trying to put really concentrated color into a small area. So I'm kind of learning as I go with some of this. But yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun coloring this. I really enjoyed the colors that I used and the overall vibes of the piece as a whole. And I had fun this Inktober. It was different than what I normally do, which is I stick with just black and white inked pieces. But this year I wanted to do something with those colored inks that have been sitting around and staring at me for years, and I figured that this was a good time, although maybe I waited too long because I don't know what's going on with that blue one. If any of you know what was happening there, please let me know in the comments below. If it's a me problem, if it's the material, let me know. I'm very curious to know. I'm not ashamed to say I've made a mistake, so if it's me, tell me. Anyway, as always, you can visit my links in the description box below. I have the link to my online store, my Patreon pin club, which this month is my anniversary of 1 year. So we have a free pin for everybody joining, as well as stickers and everything. So go check that out. And I've also got my Instagram and my Discord in the links as well. So happy spooky month. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. And I look forward to making more spooky Halloween themed videos for the rest of the month. I'll see you guys next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time as always, and I hope you have a spooky week. Bye bye!